Hello there, and welcome along to Season 3 and Episode 13 of the Gardener Ben podcast, which is brought to you proudly in association with Peterbilt's Roses, crafting timeless roses since 1968 and winner of 30 Chelsea Gold medals. Go online and shop at www.peterbiltsroses.com. Well, goodness me, what a week we have had this week. It has been brutally cold here on the south coast of England, with many places across the world and certainly across the UK experiencing very, very extreme weather conditions indeed. Here on the south coast, we haven't received any snow whatsoever, but our lowest recorded temperature this winter has been -7, which to many of you listening in foreign countries won't seem particularly cold at all, but is a very extreme temperature for us indeed. With the temperature dropping for around 3 or 4 days in a row, the raised water tank here with its monolith stone created the most stunning ice features, with nearly 3 inches of ice forming across the top of the pond. The pumps continued to run, and it was an absolute joy to sit inside toasty warm and watch all of the wild birds visiting the water feature during the day. As soon as the temperature lifted, I was keen to get back out into the garden and wanted to start 2026 off with getting some jobs completed and ticked off of my to-do list. I'm a terrible overthinker and procrastinator. This might come as a little bit of a shock to some of you because my output on social media is really very, very high indeed. And I do get on with a huge amount of things. However, my to-do list gets really, really long and quite out of hand. I'm going into this creative space where I start noting down things normally in the dead of the night or very, very early in the morning. My to-do lists grow and grow and grow, and some things get ticked off the list, but other things just get moved from list to list. And 2 of those jobs I've been putting off for a very, very long time indeed. The first of which was to dig up Dahlia imperialis, the tree dahlia. I've been growing this in the garden for around 6 or 7 years, and I desperately wanted this when I saw this online some years ago. And there's a small community of people who share pictures of their Dahlia imperialis on Instagram, YouTube and TikTok that I'm aware of that have this particular dahlia. And here in the UK, it is incredibly difficult to get it to flower. Not because it doesn't survive and not because it doesn't grow, but because our weather here in the UK is simply not warm enough. Our summers are simply too short to get this monster to flowering. In its height, it's been up to 14 feet tall in 2022, which was the last time that I managed to get this particular plant to flower. It produced just 1 or 2 flowers for a period of about 2 or 3 days before it got mown down by the frosts, and then stood 14 feet high in the garden, black and looking very, very miserable. It came up in 2023 nice and early. The season started very, very early indeed, and I was really hopeful that it would flower. The summer drew on and on and on in 2023 and again in 2024, but still no flowers. So last year, in 2024, I decided that I was going to dig it up and remove it from the garden completely, and did have a lame and half-hearted attempt at doing so. After about 15 or 20 minutes, I decided I didn't really need the space that much and it could stay for another year. However, this year, with it not flowering again at the end of 2024, I thought enough was enough, and space is at an absolute premium, as I seem to have talked about on and on and on about this particular podcast. There are now so many roses, so many peonies and so many herbaceous perennials backed up for me to work on that I realistically have to start letting some stuff go. And if it's not bringing me joy in the garden, or if it's not actually pulling its weight, I simply don't have the space for it anymore. Many of you ask how large the garden is here at North Lodge, and it covers just over 1/3 of an acre. So we are blessed with a lot of space. But space is now at a real premium. So one of the jobs I wanted to tick off the list at the very beginning of 2026 was to dig up Dahlia imperialis. Now, for those of you listening that might not follow along on my other social media channels, I implore you to go and have a look at either Instagram, YouTube or TikTok now and have a look at the sheer size of this tuber. I have never in all of my gardening life, and that has spanned a career lasting nearly 31 years, seen anything quite like this. I was very proud of myself. I took my time and I did this particular task very slowly and methodically, and I have managed to dig the tuber out of the ground. It measures a staggering 1.2 metres across, and at the moment I have no idea how much the tuber weighs. However, I have gone ahead and registered it with the Guinness Book World of Records, and I'm waiting for an adjudicator to come out and see whether this will actually be the largest or heaviest dahlia tuber ever recorded. I'm also looking for a local garden centre to actually display the tuber so it can be seen by the public, because it is a sight to behold. So we have around 5 or 6 weeks ahead of us before the tuber needs to be divided and go back in the ground so it can get away for next year. Even divided, I think it will be broken into around 12 different sections and still be absolutely enormous, each of those probably around the size of a football. It felt really good to finally get this job off the list and get Dahlia Imperialis out the ground. The other thing that I've been putting off, and it was actually quite timely that this was done when it was done because it was so cold. For around 2.5 years, I've been procrastinating about replacing our outdoor tap. I'm very lucky to have 2 sources of water in the garden, 2 taps in different locations, one of which has been leaking terribly. And to avoid actually replacing the tap, I've been turning the stopcock off inside the house, thinking it was going to be a complicated, long and timely job. However, I've realised over a period of years that turning the stopcock off inside the house is an absolute pain. So I wanted to get the tap replaced early on in 2026. So very luckily for us, the cold snap that arrived at the very beginning of the year, outside water sources were all shut off and caused no damage whatsoever. However, as soon as it thawed, that was the other thing that I did. I got online, which took me about 20 minutes to find the relevant tap, had it delivered, and it took me about 20 minutes and no more to replace the outdoor tap to the point where it no longer leaks anymore and it's a pleasure to use. Going just to prove the point that realistically, the procrastination and the overthinking of putting off of a task is sometimes a lot more lengthy than actually getting on and doing it. So I've made a little bit of a New Year's resolution with myself that I'm going to try and be a little bit more proactive and get some of these long-term job lists off my list and out of my mind for good in 2026. Now, I'm not one for normally making New Year's resolutions, as I sometimes find them a little bit hollow. This year, I actually participated in a practice called 13 Magical Nights, which I'm going to be talking to you about in an episode with That Glasgow Witch in several months' time. So do look out for that episode. This week, I have the absolute pleasure in once again talking to Katrina, the mother of Clayton and the name and person behind the account Building a Food Forest Scotland. Katrina joined me for an informal conversation back on episode 2 of the podcast. And we simply had so much to talk about with regards to her homeschooling Clayton, his autism, and how gardening has really opened up a new and wonderful world of learning for him. The family is incredibly busy, with lots of things going on for every single person involved. So it was really interesting to catch up with Katrina and see how her growing season had panned out in 2025 and see whether it was a little more positive than the end of 2024. Now, if we can all remember that particular summer, not a lot grew and it seemed to be really very poor indeed. And managing Clayton's expectations around his favourite part of gardening, which is often the harvest, was very difficult to manage indeed. So I hope you'll join me in welcoming Building a Food Forest Scotland, Katrina and Clayton back to the podcast and enjoy the conversation that follows. Now, if you cast your mind back to the 10th of March and season 2, I had the absolute pleasure in speaking to Katrina and Clayton from Building a Food Forest Scotland on the podcast. And Katrina, you join me again today. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be back. March seems like a very, very long time ago.
So no, if you look at what's gone on the world since, so you can understand why it seems to be a completely
Oh,
different world.
unbelievable. And you've probably got through, what, 50, 70 different roses by now?
Uh, Probably about 85, I think. Yeah,
No.
yeah. It was a
Oh
big. It
my
was.
gosh.
It was a big year. It was a year of overachieving for me, and I'm now left sort of jaded. And I think by the end of September, when I wrapped them up, I could no longer speak, and I'd run out of words.
Wow, that is incredible. That is an
Thank,
achievement.
thank you. Uh, how have you been? How are things going?
So, yeah, it's been definitely a very different season for us, not just for garden wise. Um, but we've moved into a different kind of season as a family.
Hmm.
Riley, who is a year younger than Clayton, so he's 17, last year got all A's for his Nat 5s, so GCSEs in England. And then this year took his hires, which is like A levels, got yet
Hmm.
more A's,
Oh,
and
wow.
got
Yeah.
accepted to Glasgow University to study physics a year early.
Okay, that's absolutely fabulous. Huge congratulations to
Yeah,
Riley. That's a massive achievement. So there's been
absolutely.
a big shift in your family dynamic at home.
It has. So we're not far away. We're kind of 40 minutes away.
Hmm.
So Riley's not moved out because I don't think we could cope with that as a family. Clayton could not. So he's still at home, but it
But
means
the
that,
question is whether Riley's ready to jump the ship as well, and
well, exactly. I
because
mean,
I think we
no.
all say we are. I think we all say we are at that age, and then the reality
Yeah, I
arrives. And
mean,
you think, oh, do I want to do this?
no, exactly. And I mean, he only just turned 17 in June.
It
So he's
is
still
young, yeah.
really a baby to be, washing and ironing and having to shop for food and cook. And yeah, it's a bit of a lot to take on. But yeah, the dynamics in the house has changed. So Peter's taking him into Glasgow every day. Peter
Yeah.
works in Glasgow, but doesn't usually go into the office. He's been working from home since
Do
COVID.
do you remember you saying that you were managed to sort of split your time for sort of work time, family time with getting the kids ready for
Yeah,
school and and focusing on Clayton and splitting your time because he was able to work from home a lot and that gave you a good dynamic at home. So that's
exactly.
changed. He's now off commuting, which is obviously quite stressful in its own right, isn't it? Because the traffic is always
Yeah,
bad.
exactly. So that means that Riley and Peter are now getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, leaving by 7. So the household is up earlier, which it didn't used to be. It used to just be me and Clayton and very quiet, where now
Yeah.
it's all hustle and bustle very early. And yeah, Clayton has not coped with the change at all. He's very stressed all day. He watches on the Life 360 app, he watches their little car go all the way there, and then he sits there waiting for it all day to start returning back. Um, it's been a very, very different, well, since October, so we're sort of 7 weeks or so in.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a different season for us, which means Clayton has not really wanted to get out in the garden because he's too busy watching the app with the car.
Yeah.
So we've done a lot more DIY in the house, which is great because we've managed to finish all our bedrooms now. So
Hmm.
it's another floor done. And it means that we finally got round to doing the guest room, which is going to be my study. So I'll actually have a space to write some more books. So that's a yay. So yeah, it's been very different. We did manage to get bits and pieces into the garden, like between March and October.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we've
All
harvested a few bits.
all change in a positive way, but for the time being, just a little bit challenging, and everything's trying to just trying to find its new routine and its new groove.
Yeah, that's
And just when you
exactly it.
find it, I hate to depress you, but just when you find it,
Yeah.
Christmas will arrive and everything will go back up in the air and everything won't fit again.
Oh, I know. I know. Christmas is always a very difficult time. It's been one of those times, even when he was in school, we did not go to school with him in December. He
Yeah.
just couldn't cope with the fact that there were trees inside that just completely stressed him out. So we have to have a white Christmas tree because, it's not green and it's
Okay.
okay being inside. So yeah, Christmas is very difficult. There's too much going on, too much noise, too much unpredictability.
Yeah. So it
So
sounds like it sounds like you said it was a little bit maybe for Riley a little bit too early for them to move out of home. It reminded me of a time when I actually did move out of home. How old was I? I was 17 and I think about 6 weeks. Because
wow.
something happened for me at that sort of age as well. I was young when I went to do my my extra GCSE qualifications, I went off to Sparshalt College and I did completed my first year. And I actually was accepted onto a course that saw me doing a level of course that was about 3 years ahead of my time because of my qualification level and the work I could prove that I'd done from the work at age of 12, 13, 14 in a nursery and gardening and that the rest of that. And I actually went off just, I think it was about June, about mid to late June. So I went off to work on a large estate, and my under gardener's position for that took for a year actually had a cottage come with it, and I was expected to live on site. I was expected to live.
Oh,
So
wow.
I went from sharing my bedroom with my elder brother, which I'd shared with all of my life, to this cottage in a garden wall, a bothy, as they were called, in a Victorian garden wall,
Mm,
on my own in the middle of nowhere. Um, all I can say was very dark. I just remember it being
yeah,
so dark and and this was before I had a landline, but this was before mobiles were about. You didn't have a mobile, and then I just remember being
yeah.
very, very lonely. And I was
And internet wasn't around,
no,
and
no, no. And I had
yeah,
a little TV a Philips Square, a little 12-inch TV that my mum and dad gave me from their bedroom. And it had 4 channels on it. And this was even before Channel 5 was launched. I mean, it just had,
wow.
and it didn't have a remote control. So you kind of had to get up and walk across the lounge and press the buttons. Yeah, it was a very different experience. It was good in some ways, but very, very challenging. It
I didn't
wasn't ideal.
realise. I didn't realise that you'd got into gardening straight from school.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I've had
Wow.
several reincarnations. I went, yeah, from my journey started about, well, very, very young, and probably 5 or 6 out in the garden at home. And then by about sort of 11 or 12, I'd started a little gardening round. I was mowing lawns for people locally, doing hedges.
Oh,
And then
I love it.
yeah, and I had this little empire. I had about 7 or 8 clients by the time I was about 12 or 13. I would go off on my push bike, and Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings I'd mow grass and cut hedges and do weeding and stuff. And then by 14, you were able to be employed legally back then. And I went off to a local nursery that grew. Basically, it was a husband and wife team that had a nursery close to home where I was brought up, and the husband had a landscaping company and the wife had a farm shop and nursery. So between the two, she grew the stock and he put it in the ground.
Hmm.
So they propagated an awful lot. So my learning of plants started very early with propagation. I mean, we grew everything from cuttings or from seed. So yeah, I started doing that at 14, Saturday and Sunday mornings. I started sort of hodding compost about and putting bags of potatoes in people's cars and then working on the nursery. And yeah, and then on to garden centres after that, and then on to Sparshalt, and then realised that much as I loved it, you couldn't really do a great deal with the money. I mean, I was earning £116 a week, uh, working full time, and you think, well, actually,
Hmm.
I can't rent a house, I can't buy a car. I mean,
Yeah,
this is great, and then you find yourself sort of tied to a house, as in a tied house, which I had, but it just kept you very trapped. And I thought, well, okay. And then I went into garden centres full time, and then from there, I actually took a step back and went to sell cars for a bit, and that went horribly wrong. And then I went to sell then I sold sandwiches for a while. So yeah, it was a bit of a journey before coming back to horticulture full time. What, nearly 20 years
wow.
ago?
Wow, I did not know that. That's fantastic.
There we go. So yeah, so always been gardening pretty much, but it's yeah, it's taken one or two twists and turns since then.
Yeah, to come back to something that you really love, but
Yeah,
with proper
yeah.
money.
So we were talking about, so you managed to get a few bits in the garden over the spring and into the early summer. Now last year we were talking about the fact you had to really not coach Clayton through, but really sort of talk to Clayton about the failures that you had last year because the weather was so catastrophic and it was so wet and the season was so dull. Now, this
Yeah,
season, we've had something completely different. We've had a blazingly hot and dry season. Now, I came up to Scotland in June and it was even hot in Scotland. It was like 31, 32 degrees in Edinburgh and Glasgow when we visited.
it
Um,
was. You pitched up at the only week that was hot. No, I'm joking. No, June was absolutely amazing. It
yeah,
really was. It wasn't so hot during the actual summer months. So we've got sweet corn that hasn't matured this year,
okay.
and our tomatoes are still green. that you can make green chutney, but that's just frustrating when you've got all these gorgeous tomatoes and they're still green.
I was gonna ask you whether the change in summer had meant you had had sort of any more positives, because I know you were starting to get
Yeah,
stuff in the ground a little bit earlier this year and got the season off to an early start, but it's
we
still been
did.
troublesome.
Well, we've had some really good things. We started in January, so yeah, we did start a lot earlier this year. We had a go at growing aubergines, peppers, and chilies, which is
Yes.
obviously for hotter climates,
Yeah.
and we managed to get them all growing. That was absolutely amazing.
But so you started
And
those. I can understand you probably started those off in the house or putting them on a windowsill with a grow light or
yeah,
something. Yeah.
started them in January, had them on the heated plates with the seeds, and then potted them on, had them in the house until May, just on the windowsill, and they grew brilliant. And then I needed the windowsill space, so I chucked them all outside,
Yeah.
and they all grew. I was
Brilliant.
absolutely amazed. So I would definitely be growing them next year. And, maybe the actual greenhouse might appear next year. It's still sitting in boxes.
So,
So,
so
so hopefully.
the greenhouse is maybe a garden miss for the season.
Yeah, next year. I
Yeah.
just can't get this base sorted out because it's on a slope where it needs to go. I thought I could literally just, dig down, put some slabs on.
Yeah.
It's not happened. There's so many tree roots. It's going to have to be built kind of on top of the ground rather than me digging down.
So you may be
Um,
looking at putting some sort of deck down to put it on, or
I don't know. I don't
haven't
want
worked it out.
animals living underneath. So I
No,
think it's
good
going to be
point.
more of
Yeah.
a cement thing, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's something
So
I
by the sounds
can't
of it,
do.
you might need to build like I did, put the base down for our stables, build a shuttering up. We had some
Yes.
uneven ground, so I used some roofing timbers, which I got from the builders' yards. They're 8 inches wide and 2 inches thick, and I basically put sunk 4 posts into the ground and got those level, and then we basically built a box on the ground and we filled that with concrete. Got somebody in
Yeah,
to pump the concrete into that.
that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So I think that will be we'll get that ready definitely for next season because it's been sitting in the box since January and it's just so gorgeous. So it needs to go up. So
Yeah.
maybe we're gonna get like even bigger aubergines, peppers, and chilies. That'd be really
So
exciting.
what did yourself and Clayton do with all your chilies and your aubergines? Did you make something particularly tasty?
Um, Lots of them we've chopped up and frozen,
Yeah, so you can use them
and
during the
then
winter.
yeah, exactly. And then other things have just gone in. I don't cook. That's Peter's job.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's thrown them into our curries and our stews and our soups. I've roasted the aubergine, which has been gorgeous, with
Hmm.
some vegan mozzarella style cheese on top. Um, so yeah, that's been really fun. And we had a go at growing mangel wurzel this year. Have you
We
seen
did, yeah,
everybody posting about this?
yeah, we talked. I think we did talk about it briefly when we talked back in March. So how did they come out?
They're huge. They've gone really, really well. I was really surprised because they messed about for ages and just didn't grow. And
Yeah,
I
I
saw other
saw
people,
Clayton planting them, and you put when you bedded
yeah,
them out, and by then
and I
they'd already sort of lumped over as they appear to do. That you almost seem to be hanging out of the
exactly.
ground.
Yeah, so I saw other people posting them and like taking them out the ground, and they were like the size of people's heads. And I was like, well, what are ours doing? They're doing absolutely nothing. But I was out checking them this week, and there are some actually as big as our heads. So
Brilliant.
that's been really fun. And we tried some of the smaller ones, and they're really nice. We've done
I
a
just
beetroot curry with them.
just going to say
Beetroot,
because
mango wurzel.
there's apparently a very sort of not a very specific window, but there is a sort of a window of time that when they're kind of a size that you can get quite a decent amount off of them, but before they go too big and become
Yeah,
quite dull or quite tough so I suppose it's very much like a beetroot, isn't it? There's a nice sweet
yeah.
window. So you've been making what with them?
Like a beetroot curry, so
Yeah.
mango wurzel curry. It's been really nice.
And have you served that at any candlelight suppers to any dinner guests, or is that just for the family that you've been
What?
serving mangle work?
Behave as if we have people visiting.
I do remember, but this again. I know you. I know you're vegan in your household, but I
Uh-huh.
remember very distinctively when my husband met my sister and her husband for the first time many years ago. My sister, for some reason, thought it was really good. She made the effort. She made a ragu, which again, lovely, like a
Uh-huh.
bolognese, but it was a rabbit ragu.
Oh gosh.
It was the first time my husband had ever eaten with my brother, well, with my sister, and he's got a basic rule that he won't eat anything he's had as a pet. Um, and his face as anyway, yeah, it was just like I don't understand why anybody would choose to do that. But anyway, yeah, my
Yeah,
sister made him a
that's
rabbit
random.
rabbit ragu. It's like, could we not stick to lamb or beef mince for this? Would that not have been a little bit simpler? But
Oh dear.
So the mango workers, did you manage to eat any of the foliage? That was the other question, because apparently you can use the foliage like a beetroot leaf as well.
Yeah, it tastes kind of similar to chard, I suppose.
Okay, yeah. So
Um,
does it need
yeah, so
cooking, or
we
can you, or you've been eating it raw?
oh, we've just been chopping it up and eating it in salad. I'm assuming that's how it goes. Like most leaves, you just, eat. I didn't
Lovely.
make that up. I'm sure you don't need to cook it.
No,
It,
no, no.
it
Well, no,
tastes
I
fine.
just wondered if it was sort of chard-like, or you could probably wilt it off a little bit, but I don't think it's
Yeah, you probably
necessary.
could.
Yeah. Especially if it's been a bit on the tough side as well. But by the sounds of things, you've been sort of grazing, walking around the garden, grazing on a leaf here and there.
Yeah, well, in the summer we kind of just got rid of loads of the leaves because there was so much of it that kind of the sun wasn't getting to the soil. So we took it off and kind of ate that for weeks and weeks on end. It was lovely.
So have you started planning what you might be growing next year, or is life at the moment just a little bit too full on?
Well, I've still got another four bay planters that are already made up. They're sitting there empty at the moment.
Okay.
So we'll start moving all the leaves and everything that we've got into them, and start filling them. And then by the time we get to spring, then we can, add the top soil and then start planting them
Yeah.
in them. So we're planning on like yet more bushes, so more blueberries, more raspberries, maybe look at some different things like, I don't know, just berries,
Hmm.
or some golden raspberry, something a little bit different. And I think we're going to add another, I don't know, five or six more fruit trees,
Yeah.
because those seem to be the ones that we don't have to do anything with.
No, again,
So
I was just about to say you're focusing on what would be classed as what you'd actually class as the high value items in your shopping basket, if you went to the supermarket and bought these things.
exactly.
And the things that I was talking to, my first episode for this season was with Jen Flourish Nutrition, and we were talking about nutrition and specifically the menopause and organic foods. And she was saying very
Mhm.
specifically that actually, if you plan to buy organic foods, most of the chemicals that you're going to encounter in your day-to-day basis is on soft fruits and soft skinned products. So things like strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, those are going to be the things, if you
Yeah,
bought them from the supermarket, they're going to be carrying the most chemical and pesticide. And obviously by growing those at home, one, they're going to be hopefully a little bit less maintenance for you. And secondly, they're going to be um, they're going to be fully organic, and you
yeah,
don't
and
have to worry about
pesticide
buying them from.
free.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Because we're such a big family, I can buy a punnet of strawberries, and the kids will take it upstairs, and it's like, okay, well that's that then. Nobody else is having that. Um, so yeah, if they can just go out to the garden with a bowl, pick what they want, and come back in,
Yeah,
it's saving so much money on our food bill. It really is.
yeah.
So yeah, a lot more of that we need, and we really want to get to a point where we can bring them in and then put them in a hydrator and
Yes.
then save them so we've got them over the winter seasons. And like the blueberries, we want to be able to freeze loads and loads of bags of them. So that is the plan.
I've never had a great deal of success with growing blueberries, I must confess. I have great success in growing black currants, red currants, and white currants. I've got those literally coming out of my every orifice. They're coming out of my nose, they're coming out of my and
Oh
I've only
wow.
got like
I haven't
two,
we
but
haven't
I've
got
got
white currants.
now I've only got two bushes of each. But literally the volume that comes off of them, I mean, I suppose they're getting to a decent age now. They've been in the ground for about 6 years, 7 years here, and I bought them really, really cheaply. I bought them from In Excess, which is a local sort of garden centre chain, and I bought them in a little baggie, and I think they were about £2.50 each. They were unbelievably cheap, and I don't know. I thought,
Wow.
well, that doesn't, it's one of those purchases you think, well, if it doesn't do a great deal, it doesn't owe me a great deal. And into the ground they went, and yeah, I've got two gooseberries, two black currants, two red currants, and two white currants. And I think in the freezer we had probably about £12 of berries off of them in total. It was an awful lot. Yeah, yeah.
Amazing.
I must
Yeah.
confess, we don't really eat them. We kind of use them as a base for a white sangria, which it's but again,
Wow.
I'd buy frozen berries to put in that if I was making it. So okay, I suppose
Yeah.
it is what it is. We use it for what it is.
Yeah. See, we have smoothies all the time.
Yeah, you said,
And
I remember you saying, yeah.
so, yeah, over the weekends, we'll probably make, two or three each. So it's a lot of fruit.
Yes, yeah.
So, yeah, that is our goal to be
And
able to fill the whole freezer
fruit
and have
and
some dried fruit.
fruit tree wise, what were you planning? More apples, more pears, or
Well,
plums?
the apples we bought kind of at 3 years old, and they're probably about 7 years old, and they've been fantastic.
Yeah.
Every single year, maybe for the last 3 years, we've had a brilliant crop. And they've just got more and more each year. So we definitely do not need any apples.
Okay.
We have got cherries, plums, and pears that are in the ground. Cherries we've had the last 2 years. We have yet to see our plums and pears, which is very frustrating. They've been sitting there for ages now. They actually got all the blossom on them this year. So I'm hoping next year they
You
might
have.
actually do something.
Yeah, I've got a plum here that I bought 5 years ago, and it had plums on it last year, and we stupidly went away in August, and the birds ate all the plums before they were
Oh
ripe. When
no.
I came home, and the thing expected they'd be ripe, and the birds would wipe them out. This year I managed to have 5 plums. I did manage to get 5 plums. So I did eat those, and they were very, very tasty.
Wow. So hopefully we might get some next year then.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I've got a pear tree, which is I'm giving it a very, very strong warning. We inherited a pear tree with the house, which this year I have never seen anything like. I obviously created media about. I don't know if you saw it a bit about poaching them, and I've preserved them in a basic sugar syrup with star anise and vanilla, because there was.
Ooh.
I don't know how many pounds of pear. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was bowls and bowls and bowls full of them. And I thought, well, if I don't pick them, they're going to drop all over the path, and then I'm going to end up with sort of mush everywhere, and I'm gonna have to
Squishy,
pick them up
yeah.
anyway. So I did go out and pick them, and I poached them, and I did some media with them, and those are absolutely glorious. But yeah, I've got a pear tree that I bought with me, which is in a half round bucket against the house, and I've had two pears off of it in 8 years, and I gave it a very firm talking to a couple of weeks ago and said if it didn't buck up his ideas, I'm not going to keep watering it. It's gonna have to leave the building, so I think I might take it out of its barrel or maybe put it in the ground. But it's a spalio one. It's a lovely little tree. It covers the wall beautifully,
Uh-huh.
but it does need to buck up its ideas and actually do something because it's taking up space and
Yeah,
resources and time.
exactly. I think, yeah, exactly. I'm thinking we would add more plums and pears, but I don't think I could wait another 7 years for them to do something. So I think we'd have to invest in some ones that are kind of 5 years old, I
Yes, yeah,
think. So
yeah.
they're ready to go. So yeah, that's the plan.
That's the plan. And I noticed from your media, you've been sowing some green manure and getting some cover crop in to protect the soil during the winter.
Yeah, I mean, loads of gardeners kind of do the whole planting over winter, but Clayton just does not like the weather, and it
No.
it just means it's extra stress on me. So we just don't plant winter crops. So yeah, all of our beds that have got the annual veg in come out, and then we plant field beans usually, so that come spring we've got a nice harvest of those.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's what we've just started doing and we'll be doing over the next few weeks. And
Yeah.
obviously leaf mold and getting all of our raised beds filled, ready to go. But I was just thinking, we did actually do something major this summer.
Yeah.
Like absolutely major. We fenced in the whole area away
Uh,
from the digs.
I was just
So
going to
we've
say
got that.
that's a big old project.
Yeah, it was a massive project and it's taken us a while to save up to do it. So I actually got somebody in to put the fence posts in,
Hmm.
because it was obviously, if I couldn't dig a little foundation for the greenhouse, putting posts in wasn't gonna yeah, it wasn't something I was going to be able to do. So I got somebody to put all the posts in exactly where I wanted it. And then we spent a few weeks putting this net up around it and two big wrought iron gates. So yeah, the whole area is fenced in, which has also meant that I didn't realise how much weeds come up, because the deers were obviously, eating all that.
Okay.
So we've got some areas that, the grass is kind of, up to my knees, and there's some areas that are very weedy that need sorting. But that has been a major plus. I haven't had to, be out in the morning scaring off the deers and worrying all day, are they eating all the fruits, are they, destroying all the trees? So yeah, that
So
that was quite good.
by the sounds of things, you need to be a little bit kinder to yourself. It sound like a little bit like me, that I've done that project and now I'm looking ahead of what else needs to be done, but I always forget to look back on what I've actually achieved.
I know, I was just thinking, I was looking at my notes that I'd write down. I was like, hang on a second, how did we get all these berries this year? And we don't usually have this much. Oh, yes, we fenced it in.
We fenced it in, so yeah. And
Yeah.
that big chunk of money went out of the bank, and then I spent weeks and weeks putting up netting and other fencing and two great big gates,
Uh-huh.
and yeah. But by the sound of things, you've created created yourself a little bit of a maintenance challenge now, moving forward, about how you cope with the grass and the weeds.
Yeah, I think, well, I'll just have to manage that a bit better and get that more under control. It's just areas that usually we would put like the sheets of cardboard down and then
Hmm.
the leaf mulch on top, but it was
Yeah,
areas that I just didn't do last year because we'd run out of cardboard, run out of leaves.
yeah.
So yeah, usually they would have come in and kind of got rid of all that
I'm
for me.
I'm juggling to myself now because I've got visions of you on Facebook Marketplace tapping people up for leaves, and sort of going off onto the black market asking people for leaves because you've run out of leaves.
Cardboard, yes.
See, I've got
I
a
go
summer
around all
house.
the businesses.
I've got a
I'm always
summer
like,
house absolutely full of cardboard, and I mean, you've never seen cardboard like it. Mark saying, "Are you sure you're going to use all this?" Yeah, I've got a use for this. I've got something to
yeah,
seal in. I've got layers and layers and layers of it I need.
absolutely. I know people must just be like, oh, it must be that time she's asking again on Facebook. And like literally on recycling days, I'm like, anybody's putting cardboard out, tell me and I'll come and get it.
Well, we've just made the move here. This is going to make you think that we've been living here in the 80s for such a long time. We've just moved. Literally this week, we've had our first wheelie bin collected.
What?
Yeah, we've been on bags, black plastic bags and recycling bags, and I've now got to sound. I sound so entitled, don't I? My bins are now collected every fortnight and not every week,
Wow.
which is
Well,
terrible. And the reason why here in the New Forest we've only just made the move to wheelie bins is because there's two reasons. One, the donkeys have a history, a past history of kicking over wheelie bins and getting jacked up on bin scraps.
what?
So, because they're obviously the donkeys, the cows, the horses, the pigs, the sheep are loose across the forest. So the donkeys
Oh,
very specifically knock over the bins and go bin surfing. And
oh, okay.
because the roads are very narrow here, the local authority had to invest in smaller bin wagons. The normal size bin wagon that would normally be used doesn't actually fit down most of the roads in the forest, so they've had to buy more vehicles, but smaller vehicles,
Oh, interesting.
to actually service the area. So yeah, we've only just made the move to wheelie bins.
That is crazy.
Again, you say to that to most people, and they look at you and think, "What is it, 1987?" I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've just made the move to wheelie bin, so we'll see what I know. I'm holding my breath to see what Christmas happens, because obviously you know what happens when the festive period of year comes around, and there's all this packaging that comes, and normally
Hmm.
we just get away with piling it out all on the curbside. We don't have to worry about it, but no, it's now got to fit in a wheelie bin with a
It
lid
does.
down. So
It does.
I've got a steep learning curve ahead of me.
Oh, the joys.
But everybody else has been doing it for 30 years, but yeah, I've got to learn to do it now.
Yeah, we've all honed our skills on that.
I noticed as well you've been using a really nifty device. You started jet washing the curbstones on the drive.
Oh, that was a silly move.
I think it looks fabulous.
Oh, I got sent this new toy and I was like, oh, I'll just have a little go. Had no idea that they were actually like white underneath. So
Yeah,
now we've got like, I don't know, 60, 70 of them that are all black, and then these two that are now white.
it looks incredibly powerful.
It very much is. Clayton can't hold it at all. It kind of pushes him back,
Okay,
and he doesn't like it. So yeah, it's something that I have to use because, like, if he misaims, it kind of takes out the grass and stuff. So yeah, it's a fun toy I was sent. So,
but it's yeah, you've kind of kind of scratched it a little bit, and now you don't know what to do with it. I'd suggest maybe putting
yeah,
some yogurt on the ones that the ones you've cleaned, and put some yogurt on and bring them back to the color they were.
yeah, or it might just be like rage cleaning when I when I need it.
I
I
have
feel
filmed a
stressed. Where you going? I'm gonna go clean outside.
because I noticed. I mean, your driveway's quite large, isn't it? I've seen you clear leaves from down that before, and you can get several cubic
Yeah.
meter bags off of just the driveway.
It is, and it's got two entrances as well. So yeah, it kind of goes in like a half circle.
Hmm.
And we've just got so many trees, and yeah, with that session that we just cleaned, there was 5 half-ton bags of leaves,
Oh wow.
and we're a week on, and it's covered again.
Yeah.
So yeah, usually we get about 8 tons or 8-ton bags of leaves. So yeah, it definitely does a lot of compost for us.
Yeah,
So not complaining.
it's funny, isn't it? Because the season is here, down here is really quite mild. We've only literally just had our first air frost,
Oh
but
wow.
the leaves are coming down really, really quickly. And obviously, we had a big storm come in a couple of days ago, and that came in from the north with a really cold wind. And luckily for us, that's perfect for us. It blows. We share on the east boundary of our garden. We've actually got a huge stand of trees that belong to the council. They don't belong to us. And get the wind right, and they all blow across the road. Get the
Oh
wind wrong, and
nice.
get the wind wrong and they all end up on my lawn. So yeah, this wind came in the right direction. It took them away rather than putting them on the lawn. Because one of the things I'm really struggling with is I no longer run a 3.5 ton truck. I don't have a tipper
Oh
truck
no.
anymore. I gave that up a couple of weeks ago. So now again, the other thing I've got to challenge myself with is I've got to be like a normal domestic person instead of just putting it in the back of my wagon and taking it off to the commercial dump that I used to be able to and
Mhm.
get rid of all the green waste. So I've now got to either keep it and compost it or recycle it, or I've got to take it to my local dump myself and put it in the car, which is again I'm not particularly happy about that. But again, that's
Yeah.
something everybody else has been doing forever, and I'm
Or
having to learn to do that.
stick it on Facebook groups, and there's people like me going, "Yeah, I'll go and get it."
Again, I'm learning the hard way that again, if you create it, don't leave it for a day or two in the bag because I did that a
Oh,
couple of weeks ago again, and then it rained, and then I ended up with
stinks.
these two horrible, stinky bags of stuff in the car.
Yeah.
And as in cubic meters, we're not talking little bit, we're talking big bags of rubbish. And yeah, now
And
the
they're so
car's
heavy as well once they're wet.
yeah, now the car smells like a farmyard. It is full of slugs.
Oh no.
Never mind. I'll learn. I'll learn. I'm 44. I should know better.
Oh, honestly.
Uh, it's been really lovely catching up with you again. I'm really, really glad to hear that Riley is off to university and doing really well. I saw Clayton out in the garden putting up some hanging baskets as well. I'm taking that was they would take it they you put them up on the post and maybe put the fencing up and they or you took them down because of the weather.
Yeah, they were all up, doing lovely stuff, and then the storm Amy came in, which was last month or so, and I
Yeah.
took them all down, and he must have just spotted them this day, and yeah, flew down the stairs, went to hang them back up, and was not happy when he came back in. He was just like, Mom.
Well, he wasn't happy that they were down, or he wasn't happy
Yeah, he
that.
wasn't happy that they were not in the place that they should have been.
Ah, but it'd taken him several days or weeks to notice that they weren't where they were supposed to be.
Yeah, yeah, he must have just looked out the window because his bedroom now overlooks that, and
Yeah.
just seen them
See, that's
and
again.
just
That's
gone,
you've just reminded yourself of another really big milestone in with yourself and your family. That Clayton's now in his own room. That's happened since we last spoke.
Yeah, this year we decorated. This will be the fourth bedroom. We were just having the carpet put in today, actually.
Yeah.
So we've done that second floor and done all four bedrooms. So it meant that Clayton got moved out of the back room into the front room that has got windows overlooking the garden, and then it's also got a side window that overlooks the driveway.
Hmm.
So it is. I'm assuming it would have been the master bedroom, and it's the best bedroom in the house because it means that he can check us all out and see what we're doing and check his garden and who's coming up the driveway. But it's lovely. But yeah, I wouldn't say it is his own bedroom. I still have to sleep in the bedroom with him. But yeah, he's got his new bedroom all decorated and all his stuff that he likes. So yeah, that's been a lovely
And I,
change.
I saw a post about a post about him bringing together his Lego flowers.
Yeah, we he loves his Lego
A
flowers, and
bit of
because
a
he's
bit
now
of a
got
proud mum, bit of a proud mum moment for you, I think, wasn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because he's got all this shelves now and he's got the window space, we were able to display it a bit better. And I'm assuming you're referring to the shelving.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I put up one shelving to, have his deodorant and bits and pieces. And he just got another shelf and put it up underneath and like looked at me as if to say, yeah, I need another shelf here. So, I put it up
Make it happen,
because
mum. Yeah. Come on.
yeah,
Yeah.
because he looked at me and gave me the instructions just by looking, so I did it. I had no clue whatsoever why that was needed. And then he popped into his other bedroom, got his little tiny little Lego flowers that he built, and they came round onto his shelf that are all beautifully displayed now. So he can,
All just so and exactly where he wanted them.
yeah, absolutely. So he can lie in his bed now and look at his little display of flowers.
Oh, lovely.
Bless
So
his heart.
by the sounds of things, you have really made some progress over the summer months. You said you were before we started recording that you felt that the year had sort of maybe not been as productive as you thought it would. But by the sounds of things, I think you've made some really big steps.
Yeah, I just the days all blend into one.
They
So
do.
yeah, I don't kind of think that we've made progress, but actually, if you look back week on week, actually there is quite a lot of progress
It's
being
quite a
made.
lot done. Yeah, I was saying to you that I try not to beat myself up. I'm in a little bit of a rush here to get stuff that I would normally very much ask people not to do at this time of year, like clearing their borders. I'm having to clear some of mine because I let them go so much during the summer months. I've been so busy, as I say, over I think it was 81 rose reviews, 17 peonies, and
Unbelievable.
30 herbaceous perennials that I did this year, which meant my garden went to rack and ruin. And very specifically, the bindweed got majorly out of control. And at this time of year, it spreads along the ground and sends itself to ground. So I'm in
Oh
this
no.
desperate rush now before I start mulching, actually, and the leaves fall, actually, to get the bindweed out of the borders and pull all the, I mean, there's thousands of bits of it laying everywhere before it heads to ground. And I mulch
Wow.
over the top of it and make the problem worse for next year. So I'm chucking all this stuff out on the lawn and watching all these hundreds of ladybirds come out of it. It's a good job is I can leave it on the lawn and let them come out, and it's just at that right time that they are finding somewhere to sleep, but they haven't gone to sleep yet. So I've
Yes.
kind of got this very specific window. I've got about 10 days. If we have a ground frost, the ladybirds would have gone to sleep, and then I'll have to stop. But at the moment, I can sort of rootle about and sort of they're kind of a bit dozy, so I can wake them up a little bit and ask them to move somewhere else. Rather than sort of
Yeah.
chucking it all out on the lawn and giving it a day or two out on the lawn and watching them all come out and make their way back to somewhere else. But I'm in this frantic rush to get all this bindweed out of my borders before the leaves fall and I'll never find it again.
Wow.
See, not every garden's got its problem. I've got a third of an
Yeah.
acre of bindweed, and I mean
Not,
I've got bindweed.
not,
Yeah, I can't
not
describe
yet.
it. No,
Yeah, it'll be done really soon, and then you won't
yeah,
have that, so that'd be great.
no, quite. Katrina, it's been really wonderful to catch up with you. Hopefully, well, obviously we'll stay in contact via social media, but it's really wonderful to have you back on the Garden of Ben podcast. Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for sharing your journey. Everybody that is listening, you obviously have you're building a food forest Scotland. You have YouTube, and you have a blog, a gardening blog that you write, and obviously there's the book. So people can come along and have a look at your journey with Clayton gardening in Scotland.
Wonderful. Thank you. And it was so great to catch up and hear some more stories about you as well, which has been
Thank,
lovely.
thank you so much for clearing the time again today. We'll talk again very soon.
Lovely.
Take good care now. Bye bye.
Bye.
I once again want to personally thank Katrina and Clayton from Building a Food Forest Scotland for carving out the time in their incredibly busy family lives to speak to me on the podcast. It was an absolute pleasure catching up with Katrina and hearing about what her and her family have been up to over the last 12 months. Please do head over to her YouTube or Instagram channel. Show the account some love and get involved, especially if you are trying to inspire a young person in your life to get into gardening. She's also written a series of children's books which are also incredibly interesting too. So please do head over to her channels and take a look now. Next week in the garden, I'm going to be sowing the very, very first of my 2026 seeds. I spoke at length last week about how lots of people get overly excited at the very beginning of a new year, but there's no rush to get on to doing some bits and pieces in the garden. And the very first thing that I'm going to be sowing in the greenhouse is my sweet peas. Now these were ordered some months ago from Somerset Sweet Peas, who are my preferred provider, who are a small family-run independent company. Now for me, sweet peas are all about cutting them as a crop of flowers, and I love bringing them into the house and giving large bunches to not only my friends and family, but also neighbours and anybody that happens to visit the house. A sweet pea for me has to have a stem just as long as possible, and I'm never really happy unless my sweet peas come up with stems of about 12 to 15 inches in length. So I always buy my sweet pea seeds from Somerset Sweet Peas early on in the season, and as per their preferred advice, place them into an airtight container and place them into the freezer to start conditioning just as soon as they arrive. Next week they will be lifted from the freezer, go through the stratification process, which actually starts preparing the seed for germination, and I will be sowing them online. So do watch out if you're interested on Instagram, YouTube and TikTok for my guides for growing them now. Now I've tried growing my sweet peas in the autumn and I simply did not enjoy the process, and last year when I bedded them out they weren't any further ahead than they would have been if I had actually planted them in January, so I decided to go back to my original techniques. I will also be doing a series of pruning tutorials online over the next coming weeks, so you can expect to see me not only pruning things like wisterias, but also apples and pears, a whole array of fruit bushes that I have here at North Lodge. Things like gooseberries, black currants and white currants will also be pruned. So if you have any of those at home or at your allotment that you want to know more about, do look out for media coming on those subjects over the next couple of weeks. And of course, I will be slowly moving on to my rose pruning tutorials. I'll be covering absolutely everything for you online and of course on the podcast, from everything from pruning a standard or tree rose, how you deal with climbing and rambling roses and how you can train them, and of course pruning back bush and shrub roses before ultimately moving on to the very last group, which is always for me the young roses. Anything that's been in the ground for less than around 12 months should be left right to the very, very end of the rotation. I'm also very excited to announce that next week I'm going to be having a conversation with Nicola from Soulful Wisdom Academy. Nicola is actually a Reiki practitioner and a shamanic dragon priestess. She lives locally to me here in the New Forest, and I've visited her several times for Reiki healing, something that I have found really very helpful for my well-being and my mental health over the last 15 months. So do look out for the conversation coming with Nicola next week. Until then, happy gardening. The Gardener Ben podcast is brought to you proudly in association with Peterbilt's Roses, creating timeless roses since 1968 and winner of 30 Chelsea Gold medals. Go online and shop at www.peterbiltsroses.com and make sure that you're following along on Instagram and TikTok.